Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 29th of June 2022. These are the stories that we'll be talking and discussing in detail during the course of the show. We'll begin with the JCPOA talks that have finally begun in Doha in Qatar between the US side as well as the Iranian side. Now, these are indirect talks, may I add, as both the sides are not sitting directly but are working through intermediates. Now, these talks are being held between the US Special Envoy Robert Malley and Iran's Ali Bagheri, and it comes after a year of negotiations between the EU and Iran. I hope, we really hope the whole world's eyes are on this future of the JCPOA deal, and let's hope that some kind of conclusion, positive conclusion comes to it, because there was a lot of negativity addressed to it in the recent past. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns India and the lack of freedom of expression. We've already talked about Mohammad Zubair's case, but what now happens is that a lady, Tista Setalwad, who is part of a human rights organization, has been jailed. Why? Because she was trying to help those victims of the Gujarat riots, and of course had been a staunch critic of Narendra Modi. And now, just like Mohammad Zubair, she has also been jailed on sort of fictitious points that say that she has been forging wrongful documents as far as the Gujarat riots are concerned. This and more will be under discussion as far as the lack of freedom of expression, or those who are trying to say something and how their voices are being muted. This is our second segment. Our third segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns COVID-19 cases. The positivity ratio has again gone up to 3%. Our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has also warned that the people need to follow the SOPs and wear the masks so as to curtail the further spread of COVID-19. The number of cases are increasing every single day, and we need to be extremely watchful. This is our third story. Our last story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the cabinet that has approved a hazardous waste management policy, and this is a first for the government, that a hazardous waste management policy has been passed by the cabinet, and it's very important under the whole gamut of environmental pollution as well as climate change. So, of course, kudos to the government. Let's come to our first segment, and that concerns the JCPOA talks between the P5+1 and Iran. Some positive developments as the indirect negotiations between the US and Iranian side have begun in Doha. More in the following report.
Iran and the US are resuming their stalled talks aimed at restoring a landmark 2015 nuclear accord in Qatar with mediation by the European Union. Iran's chief nuclear negotiator Ali Bagheri met with the European Union envoy Enrique Mora, who will shuttle between the American and the Iranian sides. Qatar's foreign ministry stated that the talks are aimed to re-establish the deal in a way that supports and enhances security, stability and peace in the region, and opens new horizons for broader regional cooperation and dialogue with Iran. Talks in Vienna about reviving the agreement have been stalled since March. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell travelled to Tehran to meet with the Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian, and the two sides announced an immediate restart of the talks. In 2018, the then US President Donald Trump reneged on the deal under which Iran restrained its nuclear program in return for relief from economic sanctions, prompting Iran to begin violating its core nuclear limits about a year later. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN nuclear watchdog, said earlier that Iran was planning to enrich uranium through a new chain of 166 advanced IR-6 centrifuges at the site. The resumption of nuclear talks has renewed hopes for a diplomatic solution after earlier negotiations stalled in March.
Dr. Qandil Abbas, who is an international relations expert, joins us online. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, when it comes to the JCPOA, we have ups and downs, positive outcomes, and then all of a sudden everything goes mute or blank, and then we hear good news again, then comes the bad news. Why is it such an up and down as far as this JCPOA deal is concerned? Since the last more than 1 year, the EU has been quite adamant of coming to some kind of a conclusion. Why are the parties concerned not coming to one?
Actually, there are a lot of hurdles in these dialogues because Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was signed in 2015. And at that time, in fact, Iran was fully prepared to sign this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. So, but after that, because of unilateral withdrawal of United States during the Trump period, there were a lot of disappointments in Iran because they were expecting that after signing this JCPOA, all the economic sanctions will be lifted against Iran. But despite that signature, United States had not lifted all those sanctions. On the other hand, Iran had another chance to sign its strategic agreement with China, and that was signing a 400 billion deal with China. So that has provided a lot of space to Iran. And at the same time, Iran also is preparing itself for signing another deal with Russia. Because China and Russia are ready to provide facilities for economic development in Iran, and they are providing a lot of spaces to Iran. So, in this way, JCPOA is losing its importance for Iran. That is why I think if United States is not facilitating Iran to completely revive this JCPOA, then Iran will lose its interest. But I think now that these dialogues are shifted to Qatar, and still these dialogues will be indirect, and Iran is not ready to sit directly with
Because of course there are
American.
intermediaries, because there's of course no diplomatic contact between Iran and the US, if I understand well. Dr. Saab, if we look at the latest development as far as the Iranian nuclear program is also concerned, on Tuesday Iran's nuclear chief has confirmed that Tehran had begun installing a new cascade of advanced centrifuges at its Fordo underground nuclear plant. Then of course there were 27 IAEA surveillance cameras that had been removed to pressurize the West. Do you feel these are correct measures by Iran? Do you feel these will not have a negative impact on the future of JCPOA?
Actually, that was based on Iranian commitment in case of JCPO signing and compliance. We know that during last 2 decades, IAEA is having supervision on Iranian nuclear program because Iran had signed NPT. And because of that, inspectors of IAEA are present in Iran, and they have their own sensors. They have installed their sensors and cameras, and their program is completely under supervision. And Iran is also claiming that its program is for peaceful purposes, and they are using their nuclear program for energy needs and medical needs. IAEA always ratified Iranian claim, and they believe that Iranian program is still for peaceful purposes. But in their reports, usually they mention that this program can be converted into military grade program, and that is in fact their reservation. But till this time, they never supported that Iran is trying to convert its program towards a military grade program.
But
And
Dr. Saab, when
they
it
don't
comes
have
to
any
Iran,
evidence
we've
for
had
this.
various statements in the recent past as well, and in the past in which Iran has clearly stated that it does not want to build any nuclear arsenal, and the whole issue on this nuclear program is that it wants to have a peaceful nuclear program for energy needs. Why does the West not understand that? Aren't there other countries that are using nuclear capabilities for their energy needs?
This is the main hurdle between Iran and Western countries, particularly between Iran and US. Iran also suggested that if they want to stop Iranian nuclear program, Iran presented another proposal that we should arrange and we should present nuclear-free Middle East, and we should also contain the nuclear activities of Israel as well, because Iran is facing serious threat from Israel. So they believe that if Israel is continuing its nuclear program and they are producing nuclear bomb and nuclear weapons, so how they want to stop Iranian peaceful nuclear program? That is why I think international community, if they want to if they are they have certain reservations about Iranian nuclear program, they should accept this proposal from Iranian side that is based on nuclear-free Middle East, and if they can stop Israeli nuclear program as well, then we can expect that on the one hand Iran will stop its nuclear program, on the other hand Israel will stop nuclear program, and this will provide uh, foundation for peace and security in the Middle East.
All right. Now, Dr. Saab, also the fact remains that the US and the Iranian sides are meeting indirectly, but nevertheless they are meeting after a very long time and to talk about JCPOA and in Doha. And this comes just 2 weeks before Mr. Biden is to visit the region. Is there any specific reason for all of this to happen now? Do you feel that Joe Biden wants to make a statement when he visits the region? Is that why all of this is happening in Doha as we speak? And do you feel in these 2 weeks before Joe Biden visits the region that there might be some concrete development as far as the JCPOA is concerned?
Actually, there are certain reservations from Iranian side, because when Israel signed Abraham Accord with some of the Arab countries, and recently we know that Saudi Arabia is also ready to sign defense agreement with Israel, that is providing reservations for Iran. So Iran is worried about closeness of Israel with some of the Arab countries, and particularly when Iran is feeling that Israelis are present in Azerbaijan as well, in Turkey as well. So they have their own strategic reservations. They believe that if Biden is visiting this region, that must provide peace and security for this region, that should not provide base for another alignment against Iran. If they are trying to provide base for another alignment against Iran, then I believe that Iran has also already started to establish the network of resistance in the region, because they have certain influence in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, and even in Yemen. So that will be very destructive for the region. I think if till the time Iran is not taken into the mainstream regional and international politics, that will have very negative impact on regional and international security.
How important is the role of Qatar, Dr. Saab? Because, of course, we know that Mr. Mawli met with different dignitaries in Qatar as well before these talks began. Do you feel Qatar can prove to be an important intermediary between the US and Iran?
It is very interesting because Qatar is a very small state, and during last 2-3 decades, we can observe that Qatar is playing a mediatory role in a lot of
in the Afghan talks as well. It was Doha where these talks were held between the then Afghan Taliban and the previous government in Afghanistan.
Exactly. On the one hand, they have provided space for Afghan peace dialogue, and on the other hand, they have very good relations with Akhwanul Muslimun, that is Muslim Brotherhood, and they have good relations and they have good role in regional disputes. And I believe that Qatari leadership is having very good relations with Iran as well, because when Qatar was when Qatar was kicked out from GCC, they established good relations with Iran, and Iran is relying on Qatar among different Arab states. And I believe that now this long distance is also cutting short for Iranians, and they can visit Qatar very easily, and they have reliable links with Qatar. And I think this role of Qatar can play a more positive role, and that can provide positive environment for negotiation, although these negotiations are indirect between US and Iran. But the main thing is that all the sanctions against Iran must be lifted. Then Iran will be ready to discuss some other issues which are main reservations of United States.
All right. Now, on the one hand, we've got an intermediary such as Qatar. On the other hand, we've got how should I say, state or country like Israel that has been threatening Iran directly, indirectly. Apparently, it has also been behind certain preemptive sabotages and attacks in Iran as well, and it has also been telling the US and other P5+1 leaders that they should not go ahead with a deal with Iran as far as the JCPOA is concerned. Do you feel that will have any impact?
Sure, I think this is main analysis from Israeli side and from some of the Arab countries that despite the fact that Iran is under severe economic sanctions during last 4 decades, and despite all those sanctions, Iran is not only surviving, but they have very deep influence in the Middle East and in regional politics. If America is lifting these sanctions against Iran, that will become a real regional power, and they will have regional dominance in the region. So I believe that they must realize that Iran is a big country. They have very big population in the region, and they have a strong army. So they can establish peaceful relations with Iran, and Iran is also ready for this purpose. But on the other hand, if Israel is trying to counter Iran through sabotage activities against Iran or through cyber attacks, that is in fact destructive for regional peace. And I believe that United States can prevent this destruction by countering Israel and by restricting Israel not to take actions against Iran, because Iran is ready to play its role in to resolve regional conflicts like Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon. So we can change Iranian role in positive way to resolve these conflicts, and this will be possible only in case Israel must be countered from different actions against Iran.
Dr. Saab, a lot of conflicts are going on in the world as we speak, whether it be Russia, Ukraine, whether it be the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan, whether it be other issues that are plaguing the world, Africa as well. Don't you feel in this whole context it is important that a new regional player emerges, and that is already a country like Iran needs to be empowered, because it will be in favor of the world powers and the other countries in the region to have a strong ally such as Iran? All right, so we were talking with Dr. Qandil Abbas, international relations expert, and we were talking about the JCPOA talks that have begun again in Doha. These are indirect talks between the US side and the Iranian side, which is being held through intermediaries. But nevertheless, the fact that the US and the Iranian side are talking, whether even if it's indirect, it means that there's some kind of a development and there's some kind of an incentive from the West, from the P5+1 nations, to take the JCPOA to a logical conclusion. Dr. Qandil Abbas, when it comes to the JCPOA and the preconditions that have been put forward by the P5+1 and Iran, let's also talk about the fact that Iran has always wanted that all of its sanctions be lifted so that the JCPOA could be signed, whereas the US was adamant that it will not lift all of the sanctions. Do you feel some kind of an agreement could be reached during these talks as well?
JCPOA was guaranteed by Security Council resolution, and if international community is not able to protect the JCPOA, which is guaranteed by Security Council, so they will not rely on any other agreement with the United States or any other party of this dispute. I believe that on the one hand, they believe that JCPOA must be revived in its original form. And if they have certain other reservations against Iran, that can be discussed in separate meeting and in separate arrangement. So they believe that JCPOA must be revived in its original form.
All right, let's hope and let's wish for the best as far as the JCPOA is concerned. It's important that a positive outcome comes from at least this round of talks, and that maybe Joe Biden has something good to say about the JCPOA when he visits this region in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much, Dr. Qandil Abbas, international relations expert, to have talked to us about the current talks that are being held between the US side and the Iranian side in Doha, in Qatar, as we speak. We, being a friendly country to both the sides, wish both the countries all the very best, and let's hope for the very, very best and a positive outcome as far as the JCPOA talks are concerned. Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns one name, Teesta Setalvad. Now, Teesta Setalvad has been arrested by the police, and again it reminds you of Mohammad Zubair, a journalist from Alt News who was arrested also just a few days back. A whole spate of arrests are being made, and for what? For those who are speaking the voice of the people of India, and these voices are being muted. Freedom of expression or the lack thereof. More in the following report.
The democratic freedom of speech and expression is under severe threat in India as every person exposing BJP's hate, bigotry and lies faces persecution and harassment. Marking another low for democratic ethos, Indian police arrested prominent human rights activist and staunch critic of Modi regime, Teesta Setalvad, for exposing autocratic face of India. Teesta Setalvad is well known for her work in supporting the victims of 2002 Gujarat anti-Muslim riots, which killed over 1,000 people, and for seeking the prosecution of senior officials, including then Chief Minister Narendra Modi. Earlier, Indian police has arrested journalist Mohammad Zubair, who is the co-founder of fact-checking website Alt News. Mohammad Zubair, a former telecom engineer from the southern IT hub of Bengaluru, founded Alt News in 2017 with other co-founder Pratik Sinha, and since then the website has busted numerous fake news stories, mostly pushed by Hindu right-wing portals, and claims made by members of the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party or its supporters. Journalists, activists and opposition leaders have condemned Indian assault on free press, demanding immediate release of critics. In a statement posted on Twitter, DIGI Pub News India Foundation, a network of digital media organizations, said the use of stringent laws as tools against journalists must stop. India ranks 150th on the 2022 World Press Freedom Index, published by the press watchdog Reporters Without Borders. The detention of Teesta Setalvad and Mohammad Zubair is a way to punish those who are brave enough to question India's human rights record.
Kaswar Klasra, who is a journalist, joins us online to discuss more about this issue, that is the freedom of expression in India. Kaswar, thank you very much to have joined us. We had been talking about Mohammad Zubair, and now the issue is this lady, Setalvad. And why is she being arrested? Because her NGO has been framed, so-called, as far as the Gujarat riots is concerned. Why? Again, because she had been moving forward the case of one of the victims of the Gujarat riots. Is this not a continuous spate of trying to mute the voices of those who are trying to talk about the real issues that can pertain to India and the BJP government and how it's dealing with the minorities?
Well, Barsab, thank you very much for taking me once again on your show. Let me tell you, Article 19 of Bharat, I would call it Bharat, not India, it's Article 19 of the Constitution, ensures freedom of expression and freedom of all sort of things as well. But unfortunately, and fortunately for Pakistan side as well, because the Indians have always been criticizing Pakistan for baseless stories about human interesting stories. But now the game is in their court as well. And BJP, we must appreciate BJP for ruining the Article 19 of Indian Bharat Constitution. And let me draw your attention before, coming to discuss these two cases you have just mentioned. What about Rana, Miss Rana? She has been working for Washington Post and New York Times as well. What happened to her? Don't you remember? The BJP Sarkar has crushed their family. Even she has to fled to the United States as well. Even then, the BJP's government did not, quit pursuing her family and her as well. Even they reached out there in United States to attack her verbally and some sort of other things as well. And now the cases of two other colleagues have just emerged. Let me tell you, these are not the journalists that have come under the radar of BJP there in India. Even the human rights activists, journalists, and the minorities as well. So India's Article 19 has been crushed, thankfully, by the BJP, because now we have in Pakistan, and when we talk about the journalists in Pakistan as well, including me, BJP has provided us excellent example to throw criticism over there as well. What happened there in Kashmir is another story. Now, when the international organization representative, like I gave you example of the lady who worked for Washington Post and New York Times.
Rana Ayyub, yes.
Rana Ayyub, and I gave you her example. Now, the Al Jazeera journalist, what happened to her, who has been working from India, is another side of story. Now, we have seen that apart from journalists, the human rights activists, the representatives of international NGOs have come under the radar of BJP, and we are grateful to BJP Sarkar, Modi Sarkar, for ruining India, because Pakistan and India, they always have very tricky relationship, but we are nothing to do with that. So Modi is doing what we were supposed to do. So we are grateful to him.
All right. Now, Kaswar, let me give a brief history of why Teesta Setalvad is being incarcerated in this. You know, the deadly riots that happened in 2002. What happened is, in one episode, a Hindu mob had stormed the Gulberg Society complex. That was a cluster of buildings that included Muslim families. And they were burnt and hacked to death 69 people who were hiding there. That included one member of the parliament whose name was Ehsan Jafri, who had allegedly made phone calls to the then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, for help, but was rebuked. Now, Jafri's wife was being represented by Teesta Setalvad. Now, what has happened is that the Supreme Court of all institutions has put the blame on Teesta Setalvad. It says that the activist has forged, has falsified records, among other charges, in the complaint, and that has named former police officers in India as well. Do you feel that the judiciary in India is also in cahoots with the government, or is it being provided with information that makes it give decisions that go against human rights activists?
But sir, do you think Indian judiciary is independent? Under Modi's era, India's judiciary was the first one which has faced the brunt of the Modi Sarkar, the BJP under Modi Sarkar. Indian judiciary was the first institution who had to face the brunt. Just 3 or 4 weeks back, I was there with you on the same show when we discussed about a mosque, and some of the BJP's, workers in some remote district, they came forward and that's alleged that this sort of mosque belongs to their god, Shiva. So raise this mosque just to transform it into a mosque as well. So you will find a lot of example over there. Until Modi is there, when it comes to judiciary, when it comes to bureaucracy and the police as well, the BJP Sarkar has transformed, the Bharat into Hindutva state. So I am not surprised if the Supreme Court and other, subordinate courts under the Supreme Court of India, they have fallen victim to the BJP's mantra as well. So that is not a news for me, actually. And yes, rightly, regarding your question, the one-liner answer is they have fallen victim to the Modi Sarkar as well. And this is just another side of story. Either the judiciary, the bureaucracy, the international NGOs, human rights, each and everything, they have, fallen victim to the Modi's RSS ideology. Let me repeat it again. The Modi is following the RSS agenda, and when we discuss the RSS ideology or agenda, it is crystal clear that the Bharat belongs to the Hindus, and there is no place for the minorities as well. As you have rightly pointed out, what happened to the Muslim minority there in Gujarat, the world knows. And we still call the Prime Minister Modi the butcher of Gujarat as well. So I am not surprised if the Supreme Court of India has fallen victim to the RSS ideology of India as well. So Modi will ruin each and everything.
Kaswar, apparently it seems so that it has fallen, so have other institutions as well. Now, nevertheless, the condemnation has come from across the world as far as Teesta Setalvad is concerned. It also came as far as Mohammed Zubair is concerned, but now this voice has become stronger, whether it be Amnesty International that says the detention of prominent human rights activists by the Indian authorities is a direct reprisal against those who dare to question their human rights record, whether it be other rights organizations, whether it be the Observatory for the Protection of Human Rights Defenders, who also is very concerned, whether it be other people like Nobel laureate Maria Ressa from Malaysia, who has also condemned this. The condemnation comes loud and clear, but will there be any reaction?
Well, it is just the beginning. I must appreciate the diplomatic community of India. They have done very well since the beginning. Since 1948, they have been saving the face of India at each and every forum. But I think they have fallen victim to the RSS ideology as well, as we have never seen a criticism to this extent from the Europe, from the international NGOs, international forum, and also from the Americans as well. But now, that can be recorded as a very pleasant beginning. The world community has spoken out as well. As you have pointed out, the voices have been raised from Turkey, from Malaysia, from Europe as well. It is just the beginning. Because, as you told earlier, that Indian diplomacy have been doing great job to save the face of the cruel face of.
But will it continue to save the face under all of these circumstances, all of these events that are happening, and that continue to happen?
I don't think so. It has become, the Modi has made it very, very difficult for Indian diplomats deputed across the world to face their pleasant face before the world community. It has become very, very difficult because Rana Ayub was the first lady who badly, tarnished the image, the soft image of India, but purely on merit. It was a case that was highlighted not only in the United States and Europe, but across the globe. And now, after her case, we have seen the international human rights, the NGOs, and definitely Europe and from Scandinavian countries as well, that they are raising voice regarding the human rights violation in India. And definitely Kashmir is another story. And I was just reading another report soon after India announced that they are going to hold a G20 summit in Kashmir. There was a lot of condemnation from the world as well. And eyebrows were raised that India is going to hold G20 summit in a state where it has caused heavy blow to the human rights violation as well. So that is perhaps a pleasant thing for me. The world has at least started to condemn, India and Bharat as well. But as a matter of fact, Bharat is a huge
Finally, Kaswar, I'd like to have your point of view on the allies of Narendra Modi Saab in the BJP as well. I'd like to refer to a comment that Amit Shah made, who is the Home Union Minister. Now, he said that when this judgment came out by the Supreme Court as far as Teesta Setalvad is concerned, he said, I have read the judgment very carefully. The judgment clearly mentions the name of Teesta Setalvad. The NGO was being run by her. I don't remember the name of the NGO, but it has given baseless information about the Gujarat riots to the police. He also said that she helped run a campaign to stain Narendra Modi's image. Do you feel that people in India believe in what the BJP and its allies and its the people that are part of the Indian government are saying? Do you feel that there is now a reality that is slowly and steadily seeping in the public in India as to the reality of the BJP?
But I am very well connected in India as well. And as per my information, majority of the people fear the extremist sub-organizations of, Modi. They fear him. But still, we must appreciate the common public that they believe that India is a 50-50% democracy. Not me, they. And I asked one of my friends, what do you mean by the 50-50 democracy? I said, when there is, when it comes to the elections, yes, elections are somewhat free and fair. But when it comes to freedom of expression and Modi's pressure on the other institution, the result is zero. So Modi has actually the BJP is a sub-organization. They are really extremists. They don't fear to, cut a human being into pieces. What we have seen in the videos as well. So majority of India, they fear Modi, the BJP, and their extremist sub-organization. But at least we must appreciate the common people of India
course.
that they have started to raise their concern regarding Modi's RSS ideology. And this is just a beginning, Barsa.
All right, let's hope that some kind of, a resurgence comes from within the people as far as the reality of this fear factor that is engulfing India from BJP and its allies is concerned. Thank you very much, Kaswar Klasra, to have joined us, to have talked to us about the incarceration of Tisa Setalwad, who runs an NGO, just because she was representing one of the victims of the Gujarat riots, and whole lot of accusations were put on her. Reminds us of Alt News, Mohammed Zubair reminds us of Rana Ayub and so many others. Let's hope that list now comes to an end and we see some kind of a change as far as politics in India is concerned, or human rights abuse for that matter. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns COVID-19 and Pakistan, and the positivity rate in Pakistan is increasing as we speak. It has come to 3%. Our Premier Shehbaz Sharif Saab has also warned the public in Pakistan that we need to be careful under the current circumstances and we need to follow the SOPs, and we should continue to wear masks in crowded places. We also know that Eid ul-Azha is around the corner. We also know that a lot of people are going to go to the huge markets to buy the sacrificial animals. So there also we need to be extremely careful when we are in the company of many others, so as to not only avoid giving any disease to someone, but also getting a disease, because there are so many children, women and immunocompromised persons in your household, in your neighborhood. There are your parents that are of a certain age and who cannot withstand any small infection as well. So we need to be extremely careful. We need to work collectively in order to curtail the further spread of COVID-19. A lot of people are calling this its fifth, sixth wave. So many other apprehensions that are coming around. Let's stop this wave before it goes unhinged. And our last story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Pakistani cabinet that has approved a waste management policy, and this is the first for the Pakistani government. This waste management policy 2022 is very important in the whole wake of climate change and environmental hazards and pollution that has engulfed Pakistan. We know that Lahore and Karachi have both been named one of the worst cities in the world as far as air pollution, environmental pollution, or even waste management is concerned. Therefore, this waste management policy that has been given by the Minister for Climate Change, Shahir Rehman, is an extremely good step in the right direction. Let's hope that this policy is implemented in letter and spirit, and the cities concerned finally get to heave a sigh of relief as far as waste management is concerned. This is a huge issue that pertains to important cities such as Karachi and Lahore. So this is an extremely important step, and we congratulate Shahir Rehman and her ministry for that, hoping for an early and tactful implementation of this waste management policy. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, before we leave, I'd like to just say a little word. Today is the 500th show of Newsroom that I have been hosting. And in these 500 shows, we've had a lot of good comments, suggestions, and of course, people who have admired the way we've conducted the show. It's a team effort, ladies and gentlemen, and the credit not only goes to me, but to my entire team, from the producers to my coordinator to my researcher, and all of those work as a team to bring forth a program that is being liked by a lot of people. And thank you for all those generous comments and also the retweets of all our little thoughts that are being coming. So we'll be seeing you again, inshallah, for the next show, our 501st show tomorrow. In the meantime, have a great evening and do follow the SOPs, because we need to come together collectively to stop this menace before it engulfs Pakistan again. Allah Hafiz.